Om Tare Tutare Ture So. Om Tare Tutare Ture So. Om Dare Tutare Ture So. Om Tare Tutare Ture So. Om Tare Tutare Ture So. Om Tare 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 Ture So. Tare Ture So.
So we'll start with the prayer for Buddha Shakyamuni. Yanda bazo bezange rebadan jazo dembande shembanje dengemba kibondo kalon yobalana meba ladame namange dembazange jondende ya Duba Chandra Jandunya Zunje Udamba Jande Jenjabana Jomba Yanda Zomeza Rebadan Shazunde Deva Jeba Jidengemba Gibondo Vengabe Yoba Adon Minamangi Azan teacher, the Bhagavan, the Tathagata, Arahat, perfectly, completely Buddha, giving knowledge in good conduct, Sugata, knower of the world, supreme God, teacher, conqueror Shakyamuni, I prostrate, offering and go for refuge. Now we do the Heart Sutra in page number 6. Sorry about that.
Thank you, Jay. I prostrate to the three noble, rare, sublime ones. Thus did I hear at one time the Bhagavan. On massive vultures mountain in Rajagriha, together with a great community of monks and a great community of bodhisattvas. Time the Bhagavan was absorbed in the concentration on the categories of phenomena called profound perception. So at that time the Bodhisattva Mahamsattva Arya Avalokiteshvara looked upon the very practice of the profound perfection of wisdom and beheld those five aggregates also as empty of it. Then the power of Buddha, the venerable Shariputra, said this to the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshvara. How should any son of the lineage train practice the activity of the profound perfection of wisdom? He said that, and the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshvara said this to the venerable Shariputra. Shariputra, am the son of the lineage or daughter of the lineage, is to practice the activity of the profound perfection of wisdom, should look upon it like this correctly and repeatedly beholding also as empty of inherent nature. Form is empty, emptiness is form, formedness is not other than form, form is also not other than emptiness. Feeling, discrimination, compositional factors, and consciousness are empty. Shariputra, likewise all phenomena are emptiness without characteristic, unproduced, unceased, stainless, not without stem, not deficient, not fulfilled. Shariputra, therefore in emptiness, form, no feeling, no discrimination, no compositional factors, no consciousness, no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no visual form, no taste, no object of touch, and no phenomenon. There is no I element, and so on up to and including no mind element and no mental consciousness element. There is no ignorance, no extinction of ignorance, and so on up to and including no aging and death and no extinction of age. Similarly, there is no suffering, origination, cessation, and path. There is no exalted wisdom, no attainment, no non-attainment. Shariputra, therefore, because there is no attainment, dwell in the perfection of wisdom. without obscuration and without fear, having completely passed beyond error, they reach the end point of nirvana. All the Buddhas who dwell in the three times also manifestly completely awaken. Passable, perfect, complete enlightenment in reliance on the perfection of wisdom. Therefore, the mantra of the perfection of wisdom, the mantra of great knowledge, the unsurpassed mantra, the mantra equal to the unequal, the mantra he pacifies all suffering, to be known as truth, since it is not false. The mantra of the perfection of wisdom is declared. Dayapta gate gate param gate parasam gate bodhisoham. Dayata gate param gate parasam gate bodhisoham. Dayata gate param gate parasam gate bodhisoham. Shariputra, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, should train in the profound perfection of wisdom like that. Then the Bhagavan arose from that concentration and commanded the Bodhisattva. Sattva Arya Avalokiteshvara, saying, well said, son of the lineage. It is like that, one should practice the profound perfection of wisdom just as you have. Even the Tathagatas rejoice, the Bhagavan having thus spoken. The Venerable Shadadvati Putra, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshvara, surrounding him their entirety, along with the world of gods, humans, asuras, and Gandharvas, were overjoyed and highly praised that by the Bhagavan.
In page number 15.
Sanjin Judong Zoji Chunang La Shanju Pado Dani Jasaji Agi Chuchi Chive Tsuna Jin Dola Benje Sanjin Juba Sanjin Judong Zoji Chunang La Shanju Pado Dani Jasaji Dagi Chushi Jibi Tsunamji Drolai Pinjiri Sanjin Drupashu Sanjin Chudang Tsuji Chunam La Chanju Pardo Dani Jasuchi Dagi Chushi Jibi Tsunamji Drolai Pinjiri Sanjin Drupashu 강긴 독전이 좀에 다와 덤지 방wen지 담배 주는 데지 고담데라 차체로 동년년 제종던 주변은 제제 선제 관전 된정근 천안 배모 된진 전조 소원대서 투이 예르메쇼 만난간다 냠배 심진 탐진 조배 산진지 공부 좀 보진 토베제다 담배 최선보 티번 준비 넘주 냠설로 저 나서 이리 뭐지 죽는가 드리면 마치려고는 백가이가 보시우도
So here, welcome to everybody, and I need to then say something here.
자침보 첸데니지 tilaju chun 마시지 되니마 라고나 할레와 zem나라 배 직 ngamdrata 마데와 배 켄사우즈두스
So to have to give a teaching in front of such a precious being, I have a little bit of anxiety and trepidation to do so.
아니 콘다오라 지난다 벤사 숨나라니 배 롭종 대소당 배 깨라침물이 차베 키보 이니 쩌발란다오이나 ngandawo 분미 애니 탭샤 딘디지라지 가르주고로다 베나 지야당 때는 딘디시니 배 지야데다 배 전주심지 쩌바 흥무술 란에 따라 마체 아니지 상아지 지 똑바데서 심노라 딩조요 와질레도 보무창모 놀라다 딘디 자침보 즉 찬로기도 아니 디티니 마지 슈거 메가리 rinpoche la dini nga dini ma kecha kare nanda gongse jogi.
No. So here to be teaching next to this Rinpoche, who is very scholarly and renowned among the three seats. And not only is he very much a scholar who is admired in the three seats, but also has given rise to these kinds of Vajrayana realizations and goes through the world in a way that is extremely sort of beneficial and in all of his activities is helpful to others. So for me to be here giving teachings in the presence of such a being, it's a little bit nerve-wracking, one could say.
라서 당은저 파치 데라 타네 좀산도르지나다 아메리카 데니지 나랑이 깨차 시선도이나 톨롭 자첨보기 밀롭종 아니 자첨보여 봐줘봐 자첨보 여와 딘지지 아니지 코류 나라 아니 지마 나랑이 줘야라 아니 로종 치지마 아니 자첨보 딘지지 제샤 나랑이 강 시기메데 다셈바남다 이제 가제잉아니 셈바남다 이제니 지카시지마 피조하시.
No. So here then in this context where we have gathered here together in this space here in America, in this environment where you have come to listen, today I am going to give a little bit of teaching on the 8 verses of mind training. However much I am able to, whatever sort of understanding I have, I will give a little bit of teaching on these verses.
다 로종 체제 만데 아니 뱀미시 자침보다 줄룩 리스만 주비 표 강제인 종라 당가서 로 마뒤바 뒤바체바 마시바 시바체바다 화장기 아니 자침보다 화장기 아니 가져오다 사보 딘디지 렌도안라.
So here, this text of the 8 verses of mind training is very precious. It is regarded as precious by all of the various traditions within Tibet. And so here, this kind of text gives us methods for taming the mind that is not yet tamed, subduing and pacifying the mind. So we will discuss then this extremely precious mind training text.
당가서 잠블링 디기팅라 오늘 전에 매드미롱이 시샤 다침보제 산지 좀 된데기 아니 치릭 의 니츠마 따와다 줘봐 다침보 숭 야비 토니 아니 디 아니 지가서다 응어스 아니 다 셈바장보 응어스 지 tum년당 응어스 심바 장본 줄대비 토네 안 되는지 송난다.
So here in these 8 verses of mind training, we are given really precious advice. This is advice that is sort of, we can't do without it. In terms of what the Buddha has taught, these kinds of methods are really precious and valuable for being able to work with our minds. And so recognizing that, we will go through this text.
라서 당가서 디 주산로데 다조 톨롭 제가 요리 되니 디기 토네 잠블링 찌기 톨롭당 잠블링기 찌기 셈젠다 제가 요리 니츠응하니 아니지 백기라고 망아시 저초하지.
No. 건나 양철수를.
잠블링 톨롭지요. 잠분 찌단 제가 여러 톨롭 마보 여러 단 딘다고게 톨롭 좋아 잠블링 찌단 제가 여러 아니 찌단기 시샤 찌단기 아니 응진당 나지 지저 좋아치스 양자 건다 이 말. 알아서다 이 말.
건다.
양자.
So Here, we're giving teachings here at this college, and this college has a connection then with the wider general world. And so here, the teachings that the Buddha have given, they're sort of like connected with science. They're connected with the way that things are. And so here, we will go through a little bit, sort of discussing from the practical perspective of how to put these teachings into practice.
다마 직배라지는 다니 심진 탐제라 이노 렐라베 튼조 주비 삼바이 딱도 제반 짐바쇼 인디 송낭도.
So here the first verse says, with the wish to achieve the highest aim, which surpasses even a wish-fulfilling gem, I will train myself to at all times cherish every being as supreme.
아니 면엄데 할리베 자 첨부지린도데 라렌디당 맞죠 미유 중단계 수수 은진 재단 거네 한테서 시고서라.
So here, this kind of prayer is incredibly powerful. And so we need to understand the connection between sort of making this prayer and actually carrying it out.
잠블린 찌지 롭종노라 맞죠 원감 직바이지 아니 저다 친구보 야지 당당 아니 니다 니지 통보 쉬브지라 페난도라.
So in general, when it comes to study, we have really improved and developed our study of the external world, of external things. This has developed to an incredible degree.
아니 지 낭 셈컴 리바 라야지 롭종데 다 데제 뉴뉴라 데라 도나 충중자 잠블린 찌 다 도나 충중자오지 차도로와.
But the study of the internal mind, our sort of inner science, is something that is not as well studied within the world. It's much sort of less looked after.
당저 남준드니 지가 레베 남자지 지금을 로단당 낭심게 아니 남자 심 차라이 남자 나는다 저도 정기 아니 독지다 지랍 니발데네 안잠블린 나라 데니지 진리 뭐 니수 켈레니게 아니 시샤 짜침보다 냠돌라 아니 봉바 냠십 집아 마세 아니 펜줄라 거도 빼야 지야지 딩자 짜침보지 아니 진실랍소.
So here in general, the sort of study of the inner science of mind is much less developed than that of the sort of external world. But due to the great kindness of His Holiness the Dalai Lama Vajradhara, we have begun to have a sort of interest. He's laid the foundation for the sort of pursuing this kind of study that is in general beneficial, brings benefit to the whole world. Having this kind of understanding of the inner science of mind is something that is incredibly precious, and he has, due to the kindness, the great kindness of His Holiness, he has laid the foundation for this.
나서 데니다 나좀 잠블링 디칼라 심진 속에 아니 데발라 창문 대반돼야 동해만돼와 송아인자니 다디 대화기 주당 동해기 아니지 그 라야기 초르바 대화 라야디 류초이 딩네 조 지당 심소리 딩네 조지 양 류심니데 파딘 주된 여비기 니주잉아니 다고 지 자본라고 차들와.
So in the world, we all want to have happiness. We all want to experience pleasant sensations and avoid unpleasant sensations. And when it comes to our feelings of pleasure and pain, we have those that are based upon or connected with our body primarily, and those that are sort of connected with our mind, and those that arise in dependence upon both. So understanding that kind of situation, how causally certain experiences feelings arise is very important.
됐으나 드링게디 아니 심솔기 아니 동에 조 매바 제답 아니 디게 심 라야디 아니 디게 가리주고 다지 쬐바 간지지 미치는 아니 디게 띵네 심데야 양 마누로바 마추웨 토네 쬐바 가리지 genki komen 저지 담바린도.
So today, this text primarily deals with the kind of mental suffering, the causes of our mental suffering, and how do we work to eliminate those? How do we work with our kind of conduct, the way that we conduct ourselves in order to pacify, to tame our minds? So this is the kind of advice that is being given here.
다 대성장 아주 디냠도라 가르주고 지 원감 리바다 셈감 리바 디니데 냠도 라린 따랴 다 냠도 아니 지 거바트비아 지 제바이나 할레빌라나 메비지 아니 대와토야다 아니 지 따치무지 용서와
So together with this, if we can kind of combine the study of external things as well as the study of mind, then this has the great potential to be very beneficial, to understand the sort of connection between the causes of the external world, the way that it works, as well as our internal sort of mind science.
빼라지나 가서다 지당기로 빼제나 다 지당이 니수응하니 지 죽술라이나 되니 근섭 덴바 된담 덴바 라야지 아니 람 트줄라 탑당 시럽 라야지 아니 드봉 은줄라 양 아니 죽으다 죽고 라야지 된지 짜침보게 아니 랑가다 짜침보게 아니 왜 니주지 제대로 대양
So, for example, here, the foundation of conventional truth and ultimate truth, understanding that, and on the basis of that, then the path of method and wisdom, and the resultant level of manifesting the two Buddha bodies, the Dharmakaya and the Rupakaya, understanding this kind of presentation, having an understanding of the foundation, the path, and the result is very precious.
대인장 대닌지 베라즈나 레발리 록수직 셰바지 응은징어라 이나양 셈 라야지 응은징 투기면도 레바 다 레바랑 저와 저 레발라 땡도리 레발 록수직 다 니기 매비저르 저와 치리바기 도단데 레발라 땡들이 레발리 록수 셰바 다 민족세는 다 제거 말아. 이나 양다 가져로 다지 켈린 투고 말아.
So here, according to Western science, aside from the brain, there's no sort of mind that we can identify. They distill everything down to the brain itself. They don't identify or recognize any kind of mind apart from that. But although like Western science makes that assertion, we can't necessarily determine or conclude that there's nothing apart from the brain. But the sort of tenet of science is that it's the brain alone. There's no sort of consciousness aside from that.
이나야 자왕의기 공바지에 용도 뒤숨지 공바지에 투야다. 마음발로 온라 몸보라 공바지에 투야. 지도와 산이다 로제만다. 된 직로 온라 몸보지 춘줄라 네 용거리 네 용거 말했어. 송현지 여러와. 티 아니 셰바지 가르쳐로다. 레바지 맨비 셰바지기 자와 맞지와 있나? 갑대도 레바지 지금나 레바디 양면나 채를 줘야 당. 양면나 레바디 차를 줘야 다. 양면나 레바디 가르쳐로다. 레바티지 딱 잠만다지 직 줘고야 다지 차더러와. 셰바디 인장 셰바디 여비 돈이 뒤숨 이제 그직 낭투그러와. 땡기 잡아도 샤르도. nga denisha mabuzi tiru banyamdola 대야 중선 빠지 못들이도 나야 다 드린 세미니 중간에 남녀 저기도 덕바.
So here, if it were the case that there were sort of no mind apart from the brain, then being able to like think very far into the future, having that sort of perceptions of like the 3 times and all the way of thousands of years into the future and so forth, there would be various sorts of issues that would arise. For example, if we're examining the brain and there's some sort of activity, it would just seem to get like larger or smaller. There would have to be some sort of connection with that physical form. So these are the kinds of like doubts or questions that arise in terms of that proposition of scientists that the brain is the sole thing and there's no consciousness aside from that.
다 셈랑기 니춘저지 데바이나 다치 낭베 카르조로다 중준노니 데바이나 셈 랄리드나나 데니지 입다 카도메바 셈 차라이 니수 빼 멍보 텔라디니 아니 준제 차라 텔라디니 빵랑 차라 아니 텔라디니 데니지 카르조로다 다 주진 차라 마고 직송네 심 차라 멍부지 송은 거래 심 차라 송은 능진 차라기 내가 지니 저와 지니 대부분의 멍부지 차더라.
So within the sort of understanding the nature of mind, there are many sort of layers of subtleness and coarseness within our minds. Our mind has no form or color. It doesn't function in that way. But when we look at the presentation of mind, there are many more sort of like coarser and subtler minds, coarser and subtler things to be abandoned or attained. And so within the presentation of mind, we see these levels of coarseness and subtleness.
대승자 베라지나다 심기 추 남시 육당저버지나 아니지 지 포모님 되바지 쿠라 짬 마임바 델리게 아니 자와 옌지 남시라지 쇼네 데니지 남시 디기토네 데니지 디 내당 쇼당 아니 칼레라 중지 뒤당 치 중지 뒤당 능 중지 뒤당 데니 남시 디기 띵네 아니지 고 죽차네 아니 미 넘버 15 뭐부지야 칼레 차기도
So therefore, when we look at kind of the development of a person, for example, they aren't just our consciousness doesn't just come from the sort of blood and sperm, the egg and sperm of the mother, but rather there's something additional. There's this consciousness, there's a sort of a level of consciousness that then we should understand the process by which the person develops. So again, it's not just sort of the form that gives rise to consciousness, but it is the coming together of various internal forms and external forms, sort of more coarse and subtle, that we have than the person. But there must be this consciousness as well.
kasi 중시 뒤웅의 주진 셰발라는 심라에 주진 진다지 마샤와이나 중진 뒤바 짬게 아니 가르쳐로다 미 자기여나 아니 점블링 대한 중진 된저와 아니 사도 제신 참마 중진 된저랑로와 아니 디코 세미 편보차고 오면도다 세미 편볼라야지다 셈딘지기 니중안에 레용도 셈지 마자와이나 아니 탑매바지 되니 셰샤 뭐무지 라줘야 디 가리라는 초로바 대와 초바 동이 라야디 아니 셰바지 여베 돈이 라기도와 셰바 메비 펜보디기 신동 당 사토디즈 중심 뒤버리데 아니 nga 동이 면도 이게셔지 민도와 디 셈여바디 다 셀버 시브리도 냥wen고네 초wen고네 말해.
So therefore, if we don't posit something else in addition to the sort of material things as being consciousness, if we don't make that kind of distinction and instead say that consciousness could come from just like the coming together of various external elements, then why would it be that things like stones and rocks and the ground and so forth wouldn't have consciousness. If we don't posit something aside from those kinds of material things as being the source of consciousness, then one gets into the problem of you can't posit things that relate to the mind. We only are able to understand, say, experience and feelings in relation to there being consciousness, and consciousness as something that is not just solely material.
단 중심적이나 베라즈나 가서 잠블링 코랑 내니 두 차라 막뭐 지금 뉴비토네 앵코 칼레란 중지롱 쓴다 매추다 덴데기 중앙기 뉴비토네 에는 잠블링데 칼레 추차르와 타코 뉴비토네 차용도 양 직로야 돼요 코랑라 접된도 단 중앙 직로라지나 고 중앙 지게 되더라 양 중앙 차라지거나 치 중앙 낭 중앙을 양 낭 중앙 디양 미도이나 디 띵기 semjen 상물로와 중질라 되더라 중앙질 라 맞아 주고 되 상물로와 중앙질라 되더라 중앙 차만요나 나기 독시기들라 상물로와 중앙 차만요이 토네 저되거라.
So here, when it comes to the kind of external world, this is created by the coming together, the sort of mixing conglomeration of the various elements. And so when we talk about the way that the external world develops, it sort of slowly comes about through the aggregation of these various elements, the various external elements and internal elements. And so slowly the world kind of comes into being, is produced. And in the way that we have those kind of external elements build together to create the world, so too we have with our own internal elements. We as sentient beings have a connection with those kinds of material things, both the external world and our own material body and so forth.
아니 가서 단다디 시고이 점전로데 다니 semjen 탐제라 이진주노 Dipende. Shosrido gatsoni. Ijino da faja. Ya pacha dulana lung kondola.
So,
Tati para la mago de shen yasre.
So here, it's giving this kind of thing where we say, with the wish to achieve the highest aim, which surpasses even a wish-fulfilling gem, I will train myself at all times to cherish every being as supreme. So this attitude of wishing to cherish every being as supreme, this is a very sort of lofty aspiration. We struggle maybe to even cherish one being, like if they say call us fat or something, we immediately get angry. So having the kind of ability to cherish every sentient being in this way is quite amazing.
지 다디 내당 수수수 꼭도 만주바 인자네 나저라 지기 디 라렌단네 배주치라야 돼 신도 깔려가고 그런다. 데니 오늘 이진오다 파자 당진다 젠진다 아니 딱도 매봐 딱도지 아니 랑 젠진 디니게 장강 작분을라 코와 토마 매바니 아니 찡니 대야반데라 아니 semjen 탐질라 아니 베데 림부친 근도 근중지 때침분 나신지 저라 쇼세는 멜람 자바이나 멜람디 수수수라 뺏 깔래하고 잡지도 무슨 의미도 나 딘지 줄되니지 집에 탐바 섬지면 잡아 코나우 자워지나 무슨 줄들어와 그러나 당진의 진진의 절네 아니 예진노 차려다 예진노 당진 진진 마틀리 예진노세니 팔람 도도지 니스지 차와이나 거 예진노 차기면도 라이도 양수 쪽바 양 당진 진진 찡이지 양 가르쳐로다 지 다항더 코르베 쩌라노는 취돼야지 레들와 대송장가서 네바 냠지비하고 지체바이나 다니 semjen 탐지 진노블레 튼조 주비 삼바이 찍도 다든 제발 짐바슈 semjen 탐지진 주로 용화쇼 소년데 튼조 주비 삼바이 송두 콩디 튼초디 줍차레다 당진 진진니노네 타르산 주글라 되니 다음에 또 시럽 당 아니 가져로 잔주기 셈이 있는 순간에 된쇼디 다 죽고도 죽고 나는 메바드리더라 한가서 디바로 다리 무시해 아유 다 하지 못들으시라 다리가
So, here, as this first verse says, with the wish to achieve the highest aim, which surpasses even a wish-fulfilling gem, I will train myself at all times to cherish every being as supreme. And so, again, this is quite a kind of lofty aspiration. We ourselves are still stuck in this kind of prison of samsara, holding to a self where there is no self, grasping at this I, and having all of the various afflictions of attachment and anger and hatred and so forth that come from that. We have sort of since beginningless time been stuck in this prison of that self-grasping or self-cherishing attitude and so forth. And so if we can make this kind of aspiration, but we have to actually, it's a quite difficult aspiration to achieve. So here it is through trying to eliminate, again, this where it says the highest aim, wishing to fulfill or achieve the highest aim. When we achieve this highest aim, it's like a wish-fulfilling jewel. When we ourselves have eliminated all of our faults and developed all good qualities, attained that state of the Dharmakaya and the Rupakaya, this is the way in which we are then able to be like a wish-fulfilling jewel to others. We have that kind of state in which we give to them. So if we investigate this well, this is the kind of meaning that comes here. But this seems, when we think about this kind of aspiration or this prayer, it seems like something that is very far away. To be able to ourselves have attained such a state as being like a wish-fulfilling jewel, and in that way be able to lead others to such a state. It can almost seem like that's so far off. But yet, when we see that other holy beings have been able to do this, we ourselves can give rise to the kind of inspiration or aspiration to ourselves strive for that state.
나선 잠블링 코랑 게 죽당 잡으지나고 에다 심지 마음부터 심지 지든기 소남당 중시 코랑이 아니 가져서 지준기 누바 용수 쪽바 파된 추된 전에 뒤대바 지레들어 당나천 지낭디 잠블링 디 콜라딜라 나이 자캅 네사 다 초그레 진사래다 빼 소소이게 진바 로단로 자캅 소소소소 네 자캅 네 사차 디 네중안에 치랑이 사차 네 사차 라니 산삼 질레바 대가랑라 데니 드란 드주직당 니 종주직 니 수직 동인직 쭈사르와 잠블링 코랑 원래 용도 맞춰 셈지 소소소소라 디 초랑가리 디 카도 입데 초랑가리 디 직레슬라니 맞춰라지 기 고샤 제면이 직군주 민도라니 강야 수직 민도 콜라리리와 아니 난가 론주 직바리 추 톱당 직바리 콜라 코란 톱당 직바리와 디가 제사래 디 맞춰 강바리 톱당 직바 인 고줄라 미이즈네 태닝에 자캅 네 산잠 텔라테네 따니 수수 산잠 카도 마데바치네요 신지가 마무직 수수 톱샤 로와 덴데데는 잠블링 뺨미시 축자 전부 이야 데바데고 대반데고 동인데고 말 잠블링 야제 땅기라고 그래 코류 야제 땅기라고 그래 이나 코류 야제 땅땅 에 메만당 아니 코류라 아니 젠제시니 양당 저거데 잔들 니장 네가랑게 나초 코류 또식 제사로와 페라지나 응에만로르나 산점지라 요 말에 소소이 강바다 소소이 지 니사점 레마도 산점 짠짠스니 뇨몬데 라로 뇨몬 또로 다차체 셰당 티묵 티 메시 슉침부지야 차 대록바 쳐야 돼양 ngazu디 미 롭종 라라림 버와 롭종 야진로 티주기 ngazul라 죽보 다 되겠을라 탈리.
So here, the world that we inhabit, this is something that is established, that is created based, on the coming together of the various elements, but also due to our kind of general merit, our general kind of karma. And so the various sort of elements come together to create this world that we live in. But we as humans then divide things up. We think like, oh, this is my place and this is my country. And we create these kinds of sections and borders. We appropriate things to, well, I'm going to protect everyone that's within these borders and everyone outside is the enemy and that they need to be subdued. And what's in here is what needs to be protected. And so although we all inhabit this planet together, we are all on this one sort of globe together, we have the sort of common elements, the air and so forth that we all need to use. We erect these kinds of boundaries saying that, well, this is the section that I'm going to protect and take care of. These are my people or my things. And that's the other out there. Those are the enemies that need to be destroyed. And in that way, we create so much fighting and strife within the world. Although we want to be happy, we're creating further suffering. And so when we have this kind of attitude of, well, I'll protect what's mine and what's within my country or my land, and everything out there, that's the other, and I need to subdue or tame those enemies. When we have that kind of attitude, from that point, we've already sort of destroyed the environment. We've lost because really there are no borders to this world. We all experience it together. We all have to live in it together. But so long as we give rise to this strong kind of attachment and aversion and so forth, our afflictions get to that point where we then act upon them. From that, we have lost, one could say. That kind of strong self-grasping just leads to destruction.
다 롭종 치리기 롭종도 빼자치 뭐야지 통부시우지 여러와.
So actually our studies of things can contribute to this, the way that we actually learn and study. So the kind of studies of the external world have gotten very high, very advanced.
이조 치잉원감 원감이 아니 뭐니 주기 되게 족보 가르치고도 상보 가르치고도 아니 자신보 가르치고도 다 된듯이는 다 잠블링라 빼타니고 잠블링지 다 자와 용수 쪽바소소 락바는 통해 이제 빼 메시지 그다 신리기 야제데 할 레비체 통부들레로.
So science has arrived at this kind of incredible level. It's improved so much that we can, like, even within the palm of our hand, see and experience and have a connection to many other things. So in the context of sort of the external environment and material things, the study of science has created a great deal of improvement.
맞죠. 롭종다 링람 제거야디 동행되고 말에 대화 죽준치야지. 체들라 가지고 삼주대 대화 용에 체들어와.
So our use of learning and study is really for the purpose of gaining happiness. We're trying to figure out what it is that will make us happy. That's why we engage in this study.
니주대 다 지연지 초란줘야다. 베레즈는 봄 라속바다. 지다 멘다 라속바다. 강다름미 아니 지 동행서야지. 차진 주야 정말로 롭종이 돈이 용거로. 롭종 매는디 차진데 주식 말해.
So when it comes to our way of thinking, even when we are thinking about, say, destroying others, we use our logic and reasoning. This is how we get things like bombs and various weapons that we make to destroy others. It's based upon our study and learning that we are able to create such things.
대마치 소차이 지기 용수 쪽바드주디 나솔라 튠진 자침보리 백가진 침보리 될지 양 계진지나네 난같이 되니 쪽바쳐야다 될데니 제신 감줘야다 될데니 중지 추응하다 다 메시지 맞소 미랑게다 내가 숙점부 슈지 죽준 지거로 제 용기도 강중디 내가 지야지 죽준 제거 챙겨 말해 참말로 rang chodi zachimbo zizo rang magai chode dokja zizo rang kepsan chimbo zileni 다 디지 용수 쪽보다 빼샤 용그래 빼샤 요나 가야 롱아 제야도 딘 죽준지 제와 있나데는 초 용수 쪽보 자치고 차사리 되네 다 미규 쪽에서는 데려와
So here, in terms of kind of our study and our learning, we do these things with the purpose of benefiting ourselves, of getting something good. So here, when it comes to like the way that we've improved external phenomena, we have all sorts of factories and things that are creating products, creating the sorts of things that we think are going to benefit us, that are going to be helpful to us. But in the course of creating all of those various factories, we pollute our environment. We create a kind of negative conditions, although what we are pursuing is our happiness, is something that we want. And so it's not as though when we undertake these types of activities, we are thinking that we want to cause harm or that we want for some sort of suffering to result. But rather, so long as we have entered into this with a kind of self-cherishing attitude, thinking of I and wanting something for ourselves, thinking of our own profit or our own gain, that is in turn going to lead to suffering, even though that's not what we're seeking.
베르지나 지리기 니수용하는 시와이나 만치야 제조단 제바제 숙청부 시부지 차니 사야 그러봐 아니 지리기 제조 체용도 족보제야단 족보 용연단 망보 용연데 탑 망보지 제도 되니 대바데 가르대로 대반되고 그래 그 동행 체도데 지금 말이 톱자데 대화지 은진지네 지금데 용연데 동행 바지 용거로 다 제준 라마데 지르가 졸라 나산 라만다 긴슬 라만다 다 베트 심지 용라다 내지 첨보 용하게 자준지 지용거로 내가 저 상막이 개인키고 말이야.
And this is true, too, when it comes to things like the various sort of chemicals or substances that we create. Maybe something like a fertilizer in order for plants to grow better, to get better harvests or whatever it may be. We create these kinds of things, these chemicals and so forth, for our benefit, to gain some kind of profit or something good from their application. But in turn, we are polluting our environment. Again, we are creating the conditions for us to experience all kinds of sickness and illness, cancers, and so forth. And so we do this out of being mistaken, out of being deluded. Although we want to gain something good, we are in turn creating the causes for our suffering.
가시 ngaso zamblingge holopige dezonola ngongam rigbaye 자베게 아니 가르조다 롭종 디기나라 아니 샘강 rig바ye 롭종지 여나 아니 다 소르베 딩니 랑기 툭 임바 하고나 툭 사기 말와 랑다 딜레 시기지 슬라바이나 디시사 조금 말와 툭 임바 하고나 디 툭디 수수 사기 말와 데 나진 소르베 딩네데니 맞아요. 건강 리바다. 네, 샘강 리바디기 내수용하는 샘 자체 부카르죠. 샘 정보 가르죠. 샘이 초르바이 딩니. 동네에 초르바디 조진 가르슬레기도. 대화에 초르바디 조진 가르슬레기도. 되니 샘강 리바 나라 다 조디 동행기 동행 만들어봐. 대화 되어봐야 그런 샘이 내수용하니로. 로차니 대두기 내수면도 디 살아와. 사도 찬도도 다 디니 남시 전에 로가지 상명이 되고 그러와 그러와 지글라 디니 디마세 다 베르지나 지방감지도라지 니추지 시바이나 다 켈레나 말레나 가르쳐 그러고다 뭐 니추 간에 로바이나 파마 지글라 보고 숨 간다 숨가 가려나 다 지겨나 보고디 아니 파미지 쿠라 지바 롭중 제사 지바 칼라 지바 여바 있나 하만디기 보디기 쥐바카가 초바카가 아니 직숙ring도 남바카가 아니 네 참아가니 용그래 주미지면 용식 말이 주진겐도 용식 말이 제와 ngам하기 레기가네 박샤잉가네 셀도비제 단다 수수수수이 감담해봐 카가지 여바디 꼭 따라한 게 하고야지로
So, if in the institutions of higher learning that we have, we were to not just focus on improving our study of external things and entities, but instead think as well about improving our understanding of the science of mind, the way that we think and use our consciousness, this would bring about great benefit if we actually had some kind of understanding of the mind and its nature. And so, for example, if we know that something is poison, we aren't going to eat it. We are going to avoid imbibing that kind of poison. And so, too, if we have learned about the presentation of mind and understand the way that our various feelings arise, what are the kind of causes that lead to suffering feelings? What are the kind of causes that lead to happy feelings, pleasurable feelings? This kind of study of the mind allows us to then be able to work with our minds. And so here, having that kind of understanding of the nature of consciousness and how it follows after causes, concordant causes, not those that are in disharmony. As well, if we have a proper kind of understanding of past and future lives. So here, when we think about the sort of past and future lives, it isn't just that everything is dependent upon that material substance. Like, for example, if a mother and father have 3 or 4 or 5 kids, all of their kids are different in terms of their physical appearance. They'll have some differences in terms of their natures and dispositions, their likes and dislikes. And so although they came from the same kind of causes, from the same mother and father, we see all of the differences between them. And the only way to understand or posit those differences is through karma. They have those kinds of differences due to the karma that propels us into certain existences.
근데 이 성장가서 다시 시럽대 표줘야고 지당네. 디니 다니 심진 탐질라를 다 라야 돼 응은지야고 시. 아니지 된조니까와. 된조 접지 가래샤. 니까와. 아니 된체와 가래샤. 안 되서야고 지간이양 응은진치서 뭐도와.
So, therefore, using our wisdom well, we should identify first the sort of preciousness of this human rebirth, recognizing the kind of leisures or freedoms and endowments that we have, knowing what those are, and understanding why this life is so precious.
소소이 정보 어쩌라데 약포세네. 아니 된조니까와 대양 된체와 미레바 남주 디기 띵네. 아니지 타르바다 탐지 준비 공부한 줘야라 미래가 남주지 아니 자지 되야 아니 다지 친한게 아니지 대뚝 저거 말해다 용수 줘봐 다 튼진 깨진 용수 줘봐 미래바 뒤지 배주시기도 아니 덴르기 레발라와 있는다 셈발라와 있는다 한다래 파틴 추틴 치제 야조기 아니 된조이 류디 가래샤 밤에 쿠라리 째니 가르치웅샤. 디니야 찬론 제도 랑 찍고기 자와린도에 밤이지 늦어. 쟁기 초그 떡을 용수 쪽박이 아니 제바디 가와리샤. 딘 델람 상만로와 때바이나 아니 랑 찍고 짜침보 인라야기 축도 변지야이지 차진 짠이 민도와 당보 용당 바르 내당 자와 제당 상말로와 땡진 제왕앙니 띵중갱앙니 디코나니앙니 샤데야지 디코나니앙라 눕데야지 디코나니앙니 샤주데 장부 차진야 샤주 샤초초 님베 차진야 샤초초 델라양 아니지 젠당 아니 가르쳐로다 님바 아니 락파르토라 아니지 베라진나 게미게 라루티나라 아니지 스밍하네 아니지 타입이 막긴 타입이 심진 탐지 라네 양 수수기 짜침보지 된바이나 안디 계획 초수요 봐 양강양 마제네 자와지 제바이나 아니 디베초스 임바 아니 개둑 가르쳐다 게틱 상말로와지 쭈닌디 심 그러와 염사부지도 이 상말로와지 차진데도 따바이나 되니 망부지 하고 연도 안 가죠.
So here, listening to this kind of teaching, to begin to understand our own kind of mind, this is something that we need to explore for ourselves. Again, using our intelligence, we recognize the preciousness of this human rebirth, and why it is precious is partly because of the kind of intelligence that we have. We have the ability, the potential to use our mind. We can develop our mind all the way to that highest state of omniscience and enlightenment. And so we have to sort of have this understanding of the nature of the mind, the way that it works, our relationship with our various kinds of feelings of suffering and happiness, and how it is that we can use this in order to develop our mind. We have this kind of connection with this body, this self right now. But when we have this kind of holding ourself to be sort of solid, real, whole right there, based upon that, within that kind of state of grasping at a self, we then give rise to all kinds of our afflictions. And so here we need to understand the way that our mind works, the way that things appear to us as good, the way that things appear to us as bad, the various ways in which we're sort of ready to follow after those appearances, grasp after them. And so it is based upon our understanding of the mind, and virtue and non-virtue occur on the basis of the mind. When we see the sort of benefits of developing virtuous qualities, like this highest virtue of bodhicitta and so forth, that's what allows us to pursue it. And when we see the defects of non-virtue, we avoid them. And so it is too, as well, though, our consciousness that is mistaken about what is virtuous and non-virtuous, and that kind of mistake leads us astray.
강다 딘디시 수수 아니 다니 라네 다라지 디 아니 텐조지 밀리름 뭐지 가레레샤 아니 디 아니 니까와 된체바 가레레샤 디니체 메다바 가레레샤 아니 디기 띵네 심지지 류가 이숨게 띵네 아니 자와 쥐바 아니지 딘디기 띵네 아니 지전주 디게 아니 가조로 레준제 아니 코레 남자 되지 로 리축라야 저로 지기 거연주다 거바보 지기 거연주다 지기 지전주 레면도 샘진 수수수기 랑기 샘 마투네 딕베 샘 마시바 샘 마투바 디기 니주잉아니 아니 가조 직 가르레샤 류디 가르레샤 안 류디기 고숨기 자와디기 아니 메시기 카르존 미라 나바 쳔부 제바이나 안 디기 리부 카와 민기도 직냐와다 이타다 데주디 다가자 신앙 꿀데베께서 말와 나주 준데 니주디 나주 디나 롱제데로와 나주이 징가는 사면 파담나 리부 추여바당 진 좀용류 사베 마담나 리브 메와디 코랑 나주 예디 준제디 나주 무슨 거라 나주기 자와제디요 봐 손레레 자와 가르지이나 나주기 아니 삼바 패주 땅 조와 뒤주 정말 땅내 자와제야마도 나주 쌤이 가르주주 가르는데 치르면도와 대송장 디 주림나나 야보다나 되네 오 딕발라야 이게 아니지 리제나 내가 전부 제와이나 네 데우 가래 아니 센나라야다 이다라두나라지 옌지기 가솔라 독자께서 말와 소수이 르심라 아니 빼 가지고로 다지 톰도 로만보 여발라 아니 빼 소수 띵검 가지고로다 지게 센나산이랑 사마니와 신삼 빼 고무카시 된달라 빼스나 착바 침부제네 착바려 나 센나데 수징리 착바려 착바 수징리 말이 버려와 아 드주디 야고지 마셔봐 이나 그러와 디레라워스 덴디는 가서디 깔아 갖고 가서 좀제 턱으로 좀 재미도 남부 최를 좀 재미도 최진의 좀 재미도라도 같이라고 그런가 좀 뭐니 줄라네 다르면 안지라래 림부지 저런지 니 말람 제고로 저런 새로 보용에 말람 제고로 아니 저런 집보용아 참아 된다 참아 줘봐 니 말람 제고로 디셈버 정보래 야고 임비께서 이나야 말람 제지랑 랑와야지 주카르래 대차요리 제당요리 띠무요리 낙스미요리 록다요리 차도요리 니지 띠물람 잡나 개면내래 말람 잡나 오늘 전에 전주 쌤 장보 쌤 장보 아니 제바 첨보 락삼 첨보 동부 첨보 닝지 첨보 딘지되나 아지 주야고도 디디 뭐하체나 배야고도 뭐 줄을 때다 뭐 다음에 때다 친질로래 아마 가서 고고 싫어래도 아유
So here we need to understand what is the kind of precious rebirth that we have right now. What is the sort of leisure and opportunity that we have? We study these sort of preliminary phenomena.
Sorry.
Like looking at the preciousness of this human rebirth and death and impermanence and so forth. On this basis, we look at the kind of the connections between our views, the way that we understand things, and the way that we conduct ourselves. We investigate the presentation of karma, cause, and effect. So within this, we get to the kind of discussion of the 6 types of beings. And so when it comes to the various types of beings, from hell beings and hungry ghosts and animals and so forth, it's not as though there is a creator deity that is putting them in those situations, but rather they are led there by their untamed minds. It is their karma that creates the kind of body that we give rise to. So when we begin to investigate and analyze, well, what is this body? What is this mind? What is it that creates the various kinds of conditions that I am in? What are the causes that lead us to, say, suffer? And so when we discuss things like the lower realms, talking about the sufferings of the lower realms is not to induce fear, but rather is to understand that we reap what we sow. We enjoy the various causes that we have created. So if we create the causes for suffering, we are going to enjoy suffering results. Whereas if we create the causes for happiness, that is what is going to be the result. And so all of the things that we do, I mean, all of our money and time and effort and so forth is really going toward trying to achieve our happiness. But if we don't have a proper understanding of cause and result, if we don't know what it is that will lead to our happiness or lead to our suffering, then we're going to be mistaken. So like, for example, when someone is a hungry ghost, it's said that we have this incredible amount of desire, like wanting things so much, such strong attachment, but have also this result of the kind of stinginess of our past lives means that everything is so tight we can't get anything. And again, this kind of rebirth, that kind of situation comes about not through someone else placing us there, but through our own actions, actions of our 3 doors, our body, speech, and mind, are what create the kind of causes that lead to various results. So here, oftentimes we like to sort of pray for things like, oh, I hope my guru has a long life. I pray that all of his wishes are fulfilled and so forth. And we try to make these prayers and dedications. But often our motivation is totally off. Our motivation for making such a prayer is really out of attachment or our own desires or sort of our own worldly concerns. And so when we are making these kinds of prayers and dedications, although we intend for it to be something positive, going toward the development of a positive kind of mind, if we make such prayers or dedications under the influence of our own afflictions, it's really not going to bring about such a good result.
Tenin da tundro ndawa ina, nga zo tundro da mini de nga zo ngus tongo yorwa. Ta ndo ri chuk nani, ta ji nyensun sumi nani, eni nyewa da ita zo tongo yo marwa, ji dang ngunjur marwa. Ta shisha la kokjur ba da ngunjur ba ni yung gidwa. Teni la da lama yin tizo de da kokjur yin disirwa. 다 응원이 여바디 튼로당 다 미니레더와 다 둔조디야 야고삼당으로 가서 가진 둔조 제발에 아니 바로 뺨매시 제발 쉬우지도 코 단단한 세이라나 하고 말이 티 삼노디 티 레데 간르스 사레 빼샤노 가르숭도 야고즈 제바이나 되니 랑기 된달라 삼노마당 게임마케 진 된달라 게임마케 심 따뇽스 따뇽 라야지 직직도 된다니 차당 진 따뇽 직당 차당라 더는 가르조로다 진 게임에 따뇽스 늘리니 소소 믹세기 저와 동행기 수수 릴라 나사세야 믹세메 셈라 동행세야 믹세리 메 또그디 저는 미 따뇽 진네 셈데 룽마 땡칼 자니 저여와 디 레창마 둔루사로도 둔루디 아니 가연다 지 수수 민도아 제장 디기 둔루사로고 레 둔루이 딘디사로도 당가서 데비 갑라 둔루이 레디 사는 비싸샤오 둔루 제난다 단다랑 빼 가서 취 자신부지 송와이나 하고 그 말이 코로나 동에 같이 딱 한다 제바이나 지 동에 매와 제 탑 강연 시기면도 땡거 있는 줄어 다 미러라지나 가서 제가 나시지 동행들이 차들이 딱 가시 미드지 낭진기 가서 밀리 자신부터 토고도 되나 뒤쪽 가리 싸우도 마음 발라 그러봐 미게 주봉이 수dum이 약보지 송와이나 짜짜짜네 밀리 땡기버지 용어 타주는와 짜짜짜네 그러봐 따라 체링부 동행다 하마이 탑수 동행들 주대야 다 남주네 배 탑수 짠짠 톱쇼 짠짠 총리 배샤가라 톱쇼 민가라 톱쇼 되도 참을로 패시 라마 이제 로시 제가 다 토마슨데 다 강다 리과 땅나 패시 년가 열다 좋아 아니 체링부터 마치 곰 제비 가서 다 대도와 가서 가야 선은 뭐도 띵이지랑 가라다 신이 딱저 신이 그거로 와 짜지 뭐로 와 이나양다 지 셈르르 셈 시대 라올르 디갈라 띵이진 칼라 슉참보지 아니지 주릉보 네 토바이나 아니지 류지 가져로다 초르바당아이 초르바다 이지 초베 띵니 데서 저 대화 전부 여바 송장 디 띵라양 그 주릉보 대야당 다 항달 딘지 깨진 장미 몸보 대전인 딘지 여러와 딘지기 아니 박차 단레 톱 디기 양그 가지고 그러고 양자 제반데 아니 라체릉보 슬라네 아니 배 강양 매바 다가랑 대지지 안에 아니 배 체릉보 시대 안딜 대지지 좋아하시라 가지고 그러다 지금 매발라 그냥 기계미 존이 요마르와 강다를 대수 상말로 수수지 냠십시 딱지시 대 상만 띵중 니수간에 용기도 와 대창만 수족이도 띵중기 아니 렁아 예수미 자주를 때네 띵중 니수간에 대수지 레용도 아니 수수기 미세 쥐당들라 산노 양타버스 땅고도 와내 능진지 타르바 라야다 제배 연대지 톱주 여대바다 아니 대화 줘야 돼 은진 제주요와 대화 띵중기 남자 참 하고를 제배 연대지 하고대야 마도 지 군주지기 가서라 은줍 나양조다 미신지기 가서라 똑바 표용한다 아니 지 멋이 땅 용한다 딘지기 녀송세 용한다 딘지 짜니 믿어와 땅양 디 주림 간 약보 섬다나 괜히 대reva도
So here, when it comes to these various types of beings, we're not able to directly see pretas, hungry ghosts, or hell beings. Again, of the types of knowable objects, there are those things which are manifest, and there are those that are hidden that we can't directly see. But animals, we can directly see what they experience. So here, if we start to think about the kind of sufferings that animals have, they experience all kinds of suffering due to their sort of ignorance, their stupidity, having to be subject to all kinds of things like being slaughtered and used for all purposes for our benefit. If we really start to think about it, there is a huge difference between ourselves and animals. We have the ability to use our reasoning and intelligence, whereas animals really, unfortunately, don't have the ability to distinguish, well, what is going to lead to my happiness or what is going to lead to my suffering. Rather, they are often in a state of kind of equanimity, one could say. But here we need to distinguish between two types of equanimity. There's the kind of equanimity within like the four immeasurables. And then there's kind of an equanimity that's really just being in a neutral kind of a state. Maybe we don't have any sickness, any major problems at that time, and we're just sort of staying in this neutral state. We don't really have any virtuous or positive thoughts, but we're also not really developing any negative thoughts. So this is the way most of the time that animals spend their life. And so they don't have any kind of idea about what sort of causes they are creating for their future or what they are doing that will lead to suffering. But we as humans, we have the ability to make those kinds of distinctions. Now humans gaining a human rebirth, although we are still subject to the sufferings of birth, aging, sickness, and death. This kind of rebirth is something that we can use. It is a very useful tool to us. So gaining another human rebirth in the future is very important. The way in which we are able to do that is by holding pure ethical conduct. If we really hold that kind of pure ethical conduct, it is 100% guaranteed that we will gain a good rebirth in the future. Now, looking at those kinds of other higher rebirths, things like the demigods, or we can really say the jealous gods or long-lived gods, the demigods situation is such, this might be the kind of situation we would fall into if we got really rich, where you're just constantly jealous of everything that everyone else has. These sorts of demigods live in a world of kind of jealousy and competitiveness and never being satiated. So those are the sorts of conditions that one would experience in such a rebirth. And that of a long-lived God, if we say develop meditative concentration, and we need to develop shamatha or calm abiding, but if one focuses on that solely, where you're just sort of like not having any kind of thoughts whatsoever, but remaining in this kind of state of equanimity, one can create the kind of causes such that you could be in that state for countless eons. You could take rebirth in one of the form or the formless realms. You create the causes to be born there. And maybe we're experiencing a sort of happy sensation, a pleasant sensation, but that isn't real liberation. One is going to fall out of that. And all of this presentation, all of this happens within the context of things being dependently originated. They aren't created by some sort of external deity or created by some kind of God, but rather it is our activities of body, speech, and mind that determine what will happen to us in the future. So here, with this kind of understanding that it is our own responsibility to sort of take responsibility for our actions, create the causes that will lead to certain results. With that sort of aspiration or understanding, if we could give rise to the best kind of results, that would really be the best.
아니, 딱 가지고. 야, 얀 뒷바르지 주머네. 근데, 아래, 안다 때 주려면도, 뭐야? 야, 라서, 되니, 나 참좀 로.
She's going to go for a little vacation, go for a little walk.
아유, 라서.
Okay.
단디니 가서 딘디게 아니 로아르 쪽이 남자디 직침바체 타르바 줘야 돼. 다 탐지 준비 공부하라야. 톱지도 하면도 따오라. 합디가 ngaji nangba berezina nangba layadi roa ngasu nangbe taju laya de mi chiraba jigi da ni ji kharzo lam luksu chiraba jigi kesha remendo di koran tawa tinjung ni sungane semje 참말로 디 고니지 tawa chinji malo wa da chopa chinji malo wa di ngane semje 참말로라 대화 용수 쪽바 디기 중교 요바다 아니 디기 냥교 요바다 얘는 디기 아니 지금 요바지 의니 수 인자네 데 semje 참지 제노르레도 주노르레도 디지 남바전 출룩 지라바즈다 따와 지라바 짱 많이 바지 깨셔 많이 봐 가서 참 거기도 디 남바 추전 잡수 조지지지 추랑기 드시 매바 이나 쳐바미도 디 거기도 다 흔들 대인자네 다 한지 레샤 남발라디 따와디 카레샤 카치네 아니 가서 잡수 조그래 디 삼는 땅 거라 kunjo tizola kachin japsu jogore ngaso samdai ji ngaso lebado tenjoji milirum bchin la zachin bore la di jumjen de la ni rang khare rendo da jen khare rendo di namju ji peju dong yi ngaso le shirabdo rangdang chimbodo di peju madan kashi gore peju dangna kunjo la di khanji la kunjo ngenjin shindo kunjo zamburina zachin bo shi chenju senbaji kunjo mompo pedo 참말라 chenju sen바 샤다리도 군조태서 좀 전에 가르스나 지는 펜토기도 아니 천주선바 이나연 사지 야 따주래도 따주래도라네 나서 똥가스네 라네치는 똥가라고 말해다 가르치고 랜드치는 로그로 와 군조선바치는 전주 선바지 덤바 팬이 갈세디 출루고 용수 쪽바지 디 덤바 디조디 전주 선바 임바 태존민도 전주지 안데 자주문도 코남바지 미시 계단 가르치기도 아니 공바지당 팬바 샘젤라 뇌 맞이야 제발 맞이야 자치무지야 저바지야 아니 내 춘 맞이마도 디과 용래 소소심 제바지 송도 다 제바 지 손에 덤바데도 전주선 매너지 써야다 요 말에 요 말아 봐 저배전에 돈에 따용 상 마상 따주래도 니찌지라 응게게 가져로 겐도다 가마 계셔 말고 뭐니 좀 다이러 같이네 지 군주지 거에서는 당 가서 갈삼던 거를 그건 뭐지 따왔다지 못된데도 수직라 네 맞지 팬도 치치송도 잡수시 공원 딘디스네다 저봐 아니지 파르친 줄라서 조금 말에 파르친다 레츠데 양 따져라 디짜데 자치진 바디 저 다디 강다를 추dim소야 아닌지 서바치야 아니 빼데 아니 진바땅야 아니 쌈된 거면 아니 내가 베비지 시럽지 표시 당단 두두데 정말 뺨미스자 전부 정말 줄는도 빼자 침부래도 다 이나양 샘제 창문디 그거도 군조지 거인선은 양 뜻을 삼는 딴 거야 리샤 다 거나다 뺏사도 양 다 배디 약도 그 장애고 녀자 그 전에 땅 가서 레모 버저 가래래 년가 갈래 좋아 딘디지 니수지가 넣고 따외 제발 때할 레베 숙션 뭐 여바디 공무원 니수래도 다 산진 좀 된데 저러지는 양 가서 최 탐지니 띵중래샤 저는 동이 되면 너가 동이 만들어야 돼 한다 저러는 철와라 열어봐 이 철와디 매바 지야디 동인디 랑신 주바다 아니 찍기 마 똑똑스는 저러는 데 맞아봐도 째연저 레민도 디 정말로 아니 배 가르 끈중래샤 띵중래샤 끈중래샤 손에 동부 동이 어정도 동인디 차라 망보 정어저니 티니 동인 저당데라 끈중등이 되나라 아니지 이제 뉴몽바당 레지 근중다 뉴모지 근중 차라지 양심 차라 똑소 차라 그래서 새 코바 매바전에 지 뒤쪽에 뺨 미시 링보즈 켈링거로 드럽 미시 드럽 이제 찌야 매바지다 지 잠블링기 도전 차단 니주세고나 뺨 미시 찌야 매바로 디링안에 코지 레응도 되는다 꼭줄이 최대도 장만로 되니 지 전제 된제 자당 로 근중 뉴몽바이 레지 근중다 묘모지 근중돼서 송 테니 대송자네 대수 대인자네 주진은 뜨네 용조 자냐래도 아니 용야대 주미 지미 레면도 아니 카조로 주메바 지메바 아니 지 근조다 다 공당가 tin데 마치쇼아지
Sorry, I need to slow my nose.
아니 가르세 주메바 지메바 지기 지 저저 레면도 고 주진네 땡중지 송아 인자 맞어 레발레사레 로 땡중레산 다 되니야 쌤이 랑신데 유설바 레샤 디 빼데 동엔 디 하레 미 마조주 다가 레지 군중다 뉴모미 군중에서 타만다 쌤이 랑신데 제 민두 디 카가도 쌤이 랑신데 빼메시 당마 짱마 살와 침발라나메바 님발라나메 제발라나메바 당마지 독센 당복께지 송도와 침바 콩게 연된데 송면도와 당복 당마 두다스 제라 야스제 나저 대로 레바치 물레송 황산 레바치 물레레다 쌤이 랑신데 당마여나 되니 왕보 락바지 공시 뒤지기 자동 가져로다 디게 연된 잠라디니 찡대야당 아니 배다 좀 돼야 돼 알레 제민도 와체는 랑산 철송아 어제
So here, this is the kind of presentation of the 6 types of beings and so forth. And here, understanding the kind of karmic causality of those various beings, we then progress beyond that to ask, well, what about liberation and omniscience? Is it possible to attain such a kind of freedom from our sufferings and afflictions? And so here, the kind of understanding that underlies all of the Buddha's presentation is not something that is particular to one type of tradition. This is the actual way that things are. This view or the presentation of things as being dependently originated is not something that was like created by the Buddha, but rather is a description of the actuality, the way that things are, and is really applicable to all various traditions. It's not something that is sort of partial to one type of people or only applicable to one type of people. But here, this is something that this kind of understanding is beneficial to everybody. And it is a view that is in accordance with the way that things actually are. So here, again, we need to use our intelligence. We need to use our discriminating wisdom in order to come to understandings. Looking at, say, why is this human life we have so precious? What are the sorts of freedoms and opportunities that we have? This is the kind of attitude that we need to take of investigating and examining things for ourselves. And so here we should look at the kind of beings in our world, these Buddhas and Bodhisattvas that are not, again, exclusive to Buddhism. These are beings that act in ways that they are teaching things like don't harm others, be loving, be patient, be kind, and so forth. So when we look at the kind of leaders of various religious faith traditions, we can see those sorts of qualities in all of them. We can view them as being like bodhisattvas. When it comes to the view, there is a difference, but we can see that there are these beings that embody those kinds of qualities or carry those kinds of teachings of not harming and being patient and being kind and loving and so forth. And so these sorts of practices, what we call within Buddhism, the 6 perfections, and we could get in a lot about the term perfection, but things like practicing ethical conduct and generosity, being patient, developing meditation are not exclusive to Buddhism. They are shared among other traditions. But really what is exclusive or what is unique is this presentation of the view of things as being dependently originated, as opposed to other traditions where they assert some kind of creator God. It would actually be quite sad if we were to look at the situation of the world and think that a creator had, like, say, given us all of this suffering or given these bad bad conditions. It's rather much more sort of uplifting to reflect upon the presentation of karma, of things as being dependently originated. Within that reality of the way that things actually are, we can recognize that our suffering is not inherent. It's not given by somebody, and it's also not something that exists in and of itself, that isn't subject to causes and conditioning. But rather, because suffering is something that arises from various causes, once we identify what suffering is, and then we are able to see, well, this is the origin of suffering. There's karma and the various afflictions, and we can look and understand how it is that those lead to all of the countless myriad sufferings we experience. These kinds of understandings can actually give us kind of a hope, because once we understand that things aren't coming about causelessly or coming about through discordant causes and conditions, we see that we have the ability to actually create our own good conditions in the future. We can see that our mind has this nature of being clear and luminous, this nature of clear light, and it's not mixed together with the various afflictions and defilements. It's not as though those kinds of afflictions have penetrated the nature of our mind such that they can't be removed, but rather our qualities are currently sort of bound or covered over by all of these afflictions. But because they are dependently originated, we can, through producing the proper sort of causes, bring about a liberation, a freedom from the suffering experiences that we currently have.
다 덴디게 제베 연데 세미 랑신데 ngasol라 아니지 동행 짠이 매대와 오늘 가지고다 동행이 리용수 도바 코란다 리룸메바 마음발라이나 네바 투숨라이나 동행이 릭트도 참말로 티 코란기 다지 올라 지난다 한다 루브르바 코란 딥치 올라 치대와 딘디지기 니주잉앙네 다 동해 라야기 니주데 고숨 출베기 자주 마무지기 인간이 다 왕보 공의 왕시 디주기 니주잉앙네 서로봐 친부기 대화다 동행이 니주잉앙네 아니 자주 마무지기 지기여바 인장 때니 람데 속네 다 서로봐 대화즈도와 대 공배리지 아니 저랑 딜 준비지 아니 람데꼼 서로 동이 라야디에 아니 더차 셰당 티묵 참말로와 아니 마뇽르당 아니 서바 대화게 아니 자와디야 망르당 다 심랑신 타득디 들룩하 고거 말와 이나양 서바 대화당 서바 동인데 싸와니니 매와줘야당 서바 대화데 내가 시베 푼조 짬 많이 봐 탈뚝니 용수 좁아 아니 랑신 끈나 대왕 바식 톱톱이알라 아니 양다리 타르베 제베 연대라는 타르바 아니 어쩌지 연주디 아니 도나지고도 와 니 도나지도 아니 중고님 봐 아니 자꾸 풍부를 하소바 딜 자꾸 풍부리네 송연주도 상물로 아니 저런 제베 연대인데 다 딥치지 짐바 독자지 아니 톱자 랑치스 여대바디 딥데니 로브르바지 데니 ng어저치용도 당지 마르바디 가리이메 다음에도 베시럽 세미 랑신데 코나니데 아니 내당 가리웨베 아니 나와 가리웨메 내바 가리웨메 아니 디 당진이 춘저도 아니 셈젠트조데 낭추라 가리이메 니추라 칸리메 데 겐도 칸리스 로그웨메 아니 참말로 아니 셰진지 아니 접수지 건답 니바데 아니 오늘 동네 빵당시 짜와디 송용도 라 본다 니 계속나.
So here, then understanding the quality of freedom, of separation from suffering, and this really meets with the idea that the nature of mind is clear light. It has never been polluted or defiled by our various adventitious afflictions. Rather, they are something that is, again, adventitious or sort of temporary, incidental. these kinds of suffering that we experience are arising through the various causes and conditions. It's not as though the nature of our mind has ever been polluted. It is in the past, present, and future in this nature of clear, being clear and luminous. And so it is, again, when we begin to examine our temporary experiences of happiness and suffering and so forth, we see that they arise from various causes. They aren't just appearing causelessly. And yet there is a kind of happiness that can be pursued, to its culmination, such that we have eliminated all of our sufferings. So understanding this presentation of the path, the way in which we can pursue those causes of happiness, and the way in which our suffering too comes about through those causes of karma and the afflictions. And it is due to not recognizing that ultimate nature of mind, not being able to manifest that or perceive that we are bound within samsara. But there is a freedom from that. There is the possibility of gaining freedom. We see in all of the various teachings of the Buddha, beginning with, including those that took place at Rajagriha and so forth. This gives us the methods by which we can identify what is this fundamental ignorance grasping at a self, and what is it that, when we get confused in that way, gives rise to all of our various kind of suffering. So understanding this kind of causality, what are the roots of our suffering and what is the root of our happiness? And it is on the basis of then enacting that, using our body, speech, and mind in accordance with that understanding of things as being dependently originated, that we can actually attain such a freedom.
라서 되니 오늘은 안에 남배 추나나 죽당 저다 수수기 이치 재단들이 응하네 다 딘디 각슈 저러다 가지고로 타르발라야디 한지 예멘당 당지 머릭발라야디 다 가르지 예멘 내다인 거네 다지 롭종당 내치 약부지 니가 투주 약부지 당네 맞지와이나 아니 오늘 다 그라 딱다 야면은 딱다 송조야 야면은 체다롱야 아메 제제제제제제 다 민두스 라와이나 단다 지리고 디가 레더와 다침보 레러와 제주체리 민두레 디 가서 탄일 만우 오메다와 자고 말해 아니 죽동바오 슬란티가 레다 페제 동반이 죽소라나 다레다 아니 동반이 죽소 라야지 칼라 동반이 토네 렌젤라메 바지 통고거라 통고래다 니 토네 짜 치슈 용수 쪽바 동반이 토네 렌젤라메 봐 동반이 토네 되니 오늘 강라 돈이롱은 대다 탐지롱은 줄세 되니 셰샤 용수 쪽바 하장 할리고 얌사고 추니미도 동반이 통송와이나 되니 차당 메봐 되니 짜치무 연된지도 룽 근데 여 롱아 레티야지 람상 소소기 타르방 은진 제토기로 되니 타르발라니 제외 연된 짜치 무슨 은진 제야디 소소기 아니지 은주라지 레송와이나 다지 가지고로 유제 닝게 인간에 다지 랑은 줘봐 들자면도 체바 되바 땜바 잠시 로이 작성 파다 잠영은에 자와지기도 랑은 줘봐 들자면도 제니고 제외 연대 자침보 저 돈도 날라 되네 심지어 탐질라티 되게나 다 동에 가용래라 디 마토네 타고 징소아 아니 차고라와 차 먹고 잘 차고라와 그랬다 나미는 틀라로도 sorry
So here it is by understanding the kind of qualities of separation or freedom that state of freedom is attainable, and we have to investigate, analyze for ourselves to come to a kind of understanding of what it means for things to be dependently originated, and empty, such that we can actually gain the kind of freedom from all of our sufferings. And we need to do so in a way that doesn't fall into either of the extremes, an extreme of reification or an extreme of annihilation. And so here, when it comes to the kind of way that, like, for example, scientists are searching, they search within these material things to try to find like the mind or the self, and they can't find anything. Maybe they've come to a sort of understanding of form is emptiness. But then when we go back around to emptiness as form, they have absolutely no idea what that is talking about. And so here, this is the kind of understanding that we need to gain through our own investigation and analysis to understand how it is that within that state of emptiness, everything arises due to its proper kinds of qualities. And so it is the kind of ability of our mind, because it's not fixed or truly existent, we have the ability to develop those qualities such that we can attain that state of freedom from our suffering. And so, as it said, within emptiness, all actions are possible. It's only within emptiness that all things are able to function, able to work. And so all of the kind of qualities of our own mind are able to be developed because of that empty nature. It is then, if we can, based upon our kind of understanding, how is it that things appear to us to exist in one way, and how do they actually exist? Although they appear as though they have some kind of existence from their own side, coming to understand that everything, although it seems to have this kind of solid, fixed, real existence, there's not even a single atom of such existence. And it is due to the lack of understanding of this that all sentient beings suffer within samsara. If they could all see the way in which things lack that kind of existence, if they realized emptiness, none of them would be subject to the kind of sufferings of samsara.
라서 디니 sikji di 용야 랑가 소이게 삼노 자침보 당당 주진 최단디즈 중앙에 아니 디 냠랭을스 치톱사리 돼야지 디 자신지 그 체들라 내주기스 양따 디 거야 디 말아봐지 간중반이 로드 그렇지.
So here, for this first verse, for this to come about, we have to give rise to this kind of strong sort of aspiration and develop within our mind these kinds of qualities. Here, I've kind of talked all over the place, not necessarily directly related to this particular verse.
라서 취딘드나 자그라름지 전조 semjo rimbo je ma je bana je je jewa nyamba meba kone kondo pebara sho donyen dawa rimbo je ma je bana je je jewa nyamba meba kone kondo pebara sho 다게 뒤숨 개완 랑드 지미 마그바 시숨 심지 말류 산제 토비 주주르지 나서 뭐래 티는 도일 알았지 가봐도
We'll now be chanting within the prayer for the swift return of Lama Zopa Rinpoche. We'll be chanting in Tibetan the prayer by His Holiness, and then also chanting in Tibetan the prayer by Kandrola. They're in the Swift Return booklet.
엄지 소리. 엄지. 올라서. 오케이. 뒤로 봐. 가서.
Starting on page 5. 다메 돈 파갸세는랑 소홀로 장갸와 야세규르바체 람잔징게갸유마루 페든딜문바주 페젤레소 연수도 페투텐림포 체세단주 베젠첸 페왈라 나양미주도 페고차 체송네 제순라마르소완데 펜데 말루종 외고칙 부갸웨 텐당 마규르로와이 돈라친 투송바자베 물로 뷰르지와 제데이렘방 온단 추송갸수진랍 당야세 남기투키라보체 루메덴 페양 추살페 Zunkezanduce peldu nyuzeshog. And then you'll turn to page 12. Lama chin, drechin sawe, lama chin o. Drechin sawe, lama sanche gonso. Namta lombu soa ninne dev. Daso tuje kya o madurwa. Lama dusum sange jingelo keni kunja dewa chimpungang maga use ilan nyanzunang sechin tuje rukarana tochu yeshe gyutu zukunyudunne Sechin tuje kyua dulaba Jejin jeje chukyu yine jen Kulo droe dondu kul Kachu laso danze mazupa Locho zambu lingi tenjola Lunto tenpe pelchin nyudun so Nyamta jua junchin nyugdun so Daso semchen lobu udubu Ngosu jane gosun jingilo Daso semchen marizin chugi Gusun tudal chinnay ludula Gerchul nudam damshin yapanam Gusun tuze ngangdu sapasel Tashi kunji tashi cho Toni ninje tashi cho Lalo nyunje tashisho Gyurme chuni dentoki Chulme yansin yugun sho de dang sa we kha dro nge du nge mi chu u du de sa sum la ye jin ge lo chang mu du na ru para sho mik ja mik je mik yu nam chuni de se landu a. And then turning to the Pecha, we'll do the long life prayer for His Holiness, found on page 22. Gangre ra we ko e jin kam dir pendang de wa malu jung we ne chen re de wan ten ze gyat ko ye ja pe ti te baradu ten gyo chik. And going back to the Kandro Tsering Kunga Bumpa booklet on page 25, you'll find the long life prayer for Kandrola, which we'll read together in English. The enlightened activity of all the victorious mothers for the sake of taking care of all of inferior fortune born at the end of the greatly degenerate time, taking an ordinary aspect endowed with the deeds of the conquerors. Venerable Tara, we request you to have a long life and pray that your wishes are spontaneously attained. Your fame pervades the three worlds, liberated from the sufferings of bad migrations, attain to enlightenment, bestowing the Dharmakaya of great bliss to Supreme Mila, acting as compassion and knowledge woman, Trashid Seringma, a long and stable life, spontaneous achievement of wishes. We make this request. Please bless us. We all make this request from our heart. The channels, constitutes, and bodhicitta are blessed by countless dakinis. Innate great bliss, a subtle completion stage is induced, and one is established in the supreme state of Dharmakaya. Kadro Bumkis Somo, abide long. We pray that your wishes are spontaneously attained. We and all migrators since beginningless time have followed the fulfillment of true grasping, coming under the power of others. By apprehending all mistaken appearances as true, we are oppressed until now by the ocean of suffering. Supreme wisdom, seeing everything is empty, Namsel Drume, abide in this life. We pray so that your wishes are spontaneously attained. All the destitute migrators, bound by karma and afflictions, although it is difficult to subdue them all, you generate greatly the mind of patience and compassion. Jet Sunda Mima, Lama Marpa, secret consort, holy and supreme, abide in long life. May wishes be spontaneously attained. Thus we pray respectfully from our hearts. The Indian great Pandit, kind to Tibet, the lotus born, you blessed him, bringing to exhaustion the 84,000 afflictions. This holy Dharma is like the rays of the sun, great kindness pervading all of the world, acting as a companion of great bliss. Supreme Yeshit Sogel, abide in long life. May wishes be spontaneously attained. We make this request. Please bless us. Dedication of the merits of having composed this prayer, having supported me with kindness since beginningless time, for all migrators destitute and oppressed by suffering, may Venerable Tara act as a spiritual master. May they soon come to touch the ground of our four bodies. And then lastly, we'll turn back to the Pecha to do the final dedication prayers, beginning on page 19. Ungewa dini nyodunda lama sanje drukyone drachinchang malupa Dehi sala gopasho janchu semcho grimpoche mache panam che gyurache jewa nyampa me payang gone gondu pewasho Jampel pa wojitar chimpadang kuntu zampo deyande jinte deda kunji jesu daluchir gewa dedak tamche ratu modusum shepe garwa tamche gi Ngoagan la chutu ngapade dagi ge wet sawa de kunjang jampo chu chiratu ngorgi. Due to the merits accumulated over the 3 times by myself and all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas which are empty from their own side, may the I, who is empty from its own side, achieve the state of enlightenment which is empty from its own side, and lead all sentient beings who are empty from their own side to that state as quickly as possible by myself alone. Because of all the merits of the 3 times created by me and all the Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, and other sentient beings, may there be no wars, famines, disease, quarreling, fighting, or unhappy minds. May there be great prosperity, and may everything needed be easily obtained. May all the human beings in the world be guided by spiritual leaders teaching only Dharma, and may everyone enjoy the happiness of Dharma.